I define a leader as anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes, and who has the courage to develop that potential. Clear is kind. Unclear is unkind. Daring leaders work to make sure people can be themselves and feel a sense of belonging. Courage is contagious. To scale daring leadership and build courage in teams and organizations, we have to cultivate a culture in which brave work, tough conversations, and whole hearts are the expectation. Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. If you are not in the arena getting your ass kicked on occasion, I am not interested in or open to your feedback. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of my life, I want to say, contributed more than I criticized. Choose courage over comfort. Choose whole hearts over armor. And choose the great adventure of being brave and afraid at the exact same time. You can't get to courage without rumbling with vulnerability. Embrace the suck. People are opting out of vital conversations about diversity and inclusivity because they fear looking wrong, saying something wrong, or being wrong. Trust is in fact earned in the smallest of moments. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. The courage to be vulnerable is not about winning or losing. It's about the courage to show up when you can't predict or control the outcome. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Who we are is how we lead. Daring is not saying, I'm willing to risk. Daring is saying, I know I will eventually fail and I'm still all in. Armored leadership is driving perfectionism and fostering fear of failure. Daring leadership is modeling and encouraging healthy striving, empathy, and self-compassion. The level of collective courage in an organization is the absolute best predictor of that organization's ability to be successful. Integrity is choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. Learning to stay open to feedback without getting defensive requires two things of us: curiosity and self-awareness. If you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. Brave leaders are never silent around hard things. Daring leaders who live into their values are never silent about hard things. We don't avoid difficult conversations and situations. We lean into vulnerability when it's necessary to do good work. Living into our values means that we do more than profess our values. We practice them. Leadership is not about titles or the corner office. It's about the willingness to step up, put yourself out there, and lean into courage. To opt out of conversations about privilege and oppression because they make you uncomfortable is the epitome of privilege. Leaders must either invest a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings, or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and unproductive behavior. Sometimes the bravest and most important thing you can do is just show up. We fail the minute we let someone else find success for us. Stay curious, ask questions, and lead by teaching people to think, not telling them what to think. Vulnerability isn't about winning. It's not about losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. The future of leadership belongs to the brave. Fear and scarcity immediately trigger comparison, and even pain and hurt are not immune to being assessed and ranked. There is no innovation and creativity without failure, period. Being clear about what we mean and what we expect is kinder than letting people guess. Courage and fear are not mutually exclusive. Most of us feel brave and afraid at the exact same time. You can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. Shame can't survive being spoken. Our ability to be daring leaders will never be greater than our capacity for vulnerability. Embodying and practicing gratitude changes everything. It is not a personal construct, it's a human construct, a unifying part of our existence, and it's the antidote to foreboding joy, plain and simple. One of the most difficult parts of rehumanizing work and coming together in connection is getting honest about how fearfully and frantically we've been working and the toll it's taken on our lives. We can't always ask our employees to take off the armor at home, or even on their way to work, especially if they're commuting on public transportation or navigating city streets, but we can ask that people come in, hang it on a hook, and open themselves up to feedback. Trust isn't a grand gesture, it's a growing marble collection. I want to be in the arena. I want to be brave with my life. And when we make the choice to dare greatly, we sign up to get our asses kicked. We can choose courage or we can choose comfort, but we can't have both. Not at the same time. With skinned knees and bruised hearts, we choose owning our stories of struggle, over hiding, over hustling, over pretending. Not all feedback is easy to sit with. That's okay. We're not here to be comfortable. We're here. We're here, and we're brave enough to be uncomfortable. We can measure how brave we are by how vulnerable we're willing to be. When we have the courage to walk into our story and own it, we get to write the ending. Just be you and be brave. That's all any of us need. The definition of vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. But vulnerability is not weakness. It's our most accurate measure of courage. We desperately need more leaders who are committed to courageous, wholehearted leadership and who are self-aware enough to lead from their hearts, rather than unevolved leaders who lead from hurt and fear. One of the biggest drivers of armored leadership is dehumanization, and unfortunately, technology is the easiest way to weaponize dehumanization. Empathy is not connecting to an experience. It's connecting to the emotions that underpin an experience. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us when, in fact, it's the thing that's really preventing us from taking flight. Courage is teachable. It's a collection of 4 skill sets that are 100% teachable, observable, and measurable. When we avoid conflict and spend our lives sucking it up, we're not just denying our truth, we're denying ourselves the possibility of real connection. Shame resilience is the ability to say, this hurts, this is disappointing, maybe even devastating, but success and recognition and approval are not the values that drive me. My value is courage, and I was just courageous. Daring leaders who live into their values are never silent about hard things. Courage is it's a habitus, a habit, a virtue. You get it by courageous acts. It's like you learn to swim by swimming. You learn courage by couraging. Courage over comfort. Courage is telling our story, not being immune to criticism. You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. I carry a small sheet of paper in my wallet that has written on it the names of people whose opinions of me matter. To be on that list, you have to love me for my strengths and struggles. We need more people who are willing to demonstrate what it looks like to risk and endure failure, disappointment, and regret. People willing to feel their own hurt. People willing to feel their own hurt instead of working it out on other people. People willing to own their stories, live their values, and keep showing up. We've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are. To love ourselves and support each other in the process of becoming real is perhaps the greatest single act of daring greatly. In a society that says, "Put yourself last," self-love and self-acceptance are almost revolutionary. Nostalgia is also a dangerous form of comparison. Think about how often we compare our lives to a memory that nostalgia has so completely edited that it never really existed. I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Here's what is truly at the heart of wholeheartedness. Worthy now, not if, not when. We're worthy of love and belonging now, right this minute, as is. We risk missing out on joy when we get too busy chasing down the extraordinary. We run from grief because loss scares us, yet our hearts reach toward grief because the broken parts want to mend. Joy comes to us in moments, ordinary moments. We risk missing out on joy when we get too busy chasing down the extraordinary. If we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. The only people who don't experience shame are those incapable of human connection. Shame hates it when we reach out and tell our story. It hates having words wrapped around it. It can't survive being shared. Sometimes the bravest and most important thing you can do is just show up. Faith is a place of mystery, where we find the courage to believe in what we cannot see and the strength to let go of our fear of uncertainty. You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. To love ourselves and support each other in the process of becoming real is perhaps the greatest single act of daring greatly. Talk about your failures without apologizing. Just because someone isn't willing or able to love us, it doesn't mean that we are unlovable. If we can find someone who has earned the right to hear our story, we need to tell it. Shame loses power when it is spoken. In this way, we need to cultivate our story to let go of shame, and we need to develop shame resilience in order to cultivate our story. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. When we deny the story, it defines us. When we own the story, we can write a brave new ending. We can't be selective in the emotions that we numb. When we numb the dark, we numb the light. In the absence of love and belonging, there is always suffering. Shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. The real questions for parents should be, are you engaged? Are you paying attention? If so, plan to make lots of mistakes and bad decisions. Imperfect parenting moments turn into gifts as our children watch us try to figure out what went wrong and how we can do better next time. Only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. When I look at narcissism through the vulnerability lens, I see the shame-based fear of being ordinary. We're all afraid. We just have to get to the point where we understand it doesn't matter. The opposite of recognizing that we're feeling something is denying our emotions. The opposite of being curious is disengaging. When we deny our stories and disengage from tough emotions, they don't go away. Instead, they don't go away. Instead, they own us. They define us. It is not the critic who counts. Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming.